2 years ago, I set out to do something that scared me. I wanted to put my voice out into the world. And now, almost 100 episodes later, I can honestly say I did the thing. And that's a pretty good place to end a chapter. Welcome back to Women on the Brink. So I've got some news. Don't worry, I'm not moving off grid or joining a cult. But after 2 years and nearly 100 episodes, I've decided that Thursday, August 6th, episode 100, will be the final episode of this podcast. And honestly, it feels right. And not because I'm tired of podcasting and not because I've run out of things to say. If you listen to this podcast for any length of time, you'll know that's highly unlikely. It feels right because the podcast has accomplished exactly what it was supposed to accomplish. When I started this podcast 2 years ago, I didn't have a business plan. I wasn't trying to be famous. I wasn't trying to build a media empire. The reason I started this podcast was much simpler and much scarier. I just wanted to do something that terrified me. I wanted to put my voice out there. And I know for some people that might now not sound like a big deal, but for me, it really was. The idea of recording my thoughts and putting them out there on the internet and letting complete strangers listen to them felt incredibly vulnerable. I mean, what if people judged me? What if they disagreed? What if I sounded ridiculous? What if nobody listened? Or worse, what if everybody listened? And honestly, somewhere along the way, I realized that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the thing anyway. So I bought a microphone, I hit record, and I published the first episode. Then I did it again and again and again, almost 100 times so far. And somewhere between episode 1 and episode 100, something changed. And not just with the podcast, but with me. I became more comfortable sharing my thoughts and more comfortable taking up space and trusting my own voice. And I stopped worrying so much about whether every idea was perfect. And I learned that sometimes you have to just show up, hit record, and truly just see what happens. And surprisingly, what happened was pretty amazing. People listened, people reached out, people shared their stories with me. People told me that certain episodes arrived at exactly the right time. And honestly, that's something I'll never take for granted. And what's funny is that the original challenge wasn't to create a successful podcast. The challenge was simply to have the courage to start one. And I did. So mission accomplished. Now another chapter is calling. And as many of you know, I've returned to university to complete my degree in anthropology and First Nations and Indigenous studies. And so for those of you who are not familiar with anthropology, it's basically the study of humans, which means that after spending 2 years talking about humans on a podcast, I've decided to spend the next few years studying humans in a classroom. I guess consistency matters. So for me, going back to university is so exciting. It feels so good to be in the classroom again and to be using that critical side of your brain. And it feels really meaningful. And if I'm honest, it feels like something I should have done a long time ago, but for whatever reason, just didn't have the time. So life has really taken me down a different path for a while. But sometimes the things we're meant to do have a way of finding us again. And I've discovered that this return to school requires a lot of my time, focus, and energy. So when I looked at everything that's on my plate, I realized that something has to give. And the podcast feels like it's the thing that's ready to be completed, not abandoned. I believe that some things are just chapters and some things are seasons and some things have done exactly what they came here to do. And this podcast has given me confidence and it's given me connection. It's given me a lot of courage and it really, really helped me find my voice. So that's a pretty incredible return on investment for a microphone and a lot of coffee, don't you think? So, although August 6th will be the final episode, I'll leave the entire podcast available until the end of the year. So, if there's any episodes you've missed or anything you want to revisit, they'll still be there. And so, between now and episode 100, I'd love to hear from you. Is there anything that stood out, or topics that resonated, or conversations that made you think? What lessons are you taking with you? Because while this may be the end of the podcast, it certainly isn't the end of the conversation. And who knows, maybe someday I'll start another podcast. For now, though, I actually feel incredibly grateful and grateful for every listener. I thought my family and close friends would be the only ones listening, but I see you, Helsinki and Chico, California, and Sydney, Australia, and everybody else out there. And I'm also really grateful for every message. So, for everybody who spends their day listening to my voice while they're driving or walking or gardening, grateful for all the people who contributed their time to come on the show as a guest. I just want to say thank you. I'll see you next week.